Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your entrepreneurship tutor, Professor Henry Buisa of Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. This time around, I want to talk a little bit about the bottom-up approach to development, to planning. This is by way of participating in civic education and the sharing views and thoughts, and really participating in national debate. This is my contribution to the debate. And I'm saying that Kenya's past attempts at bottom-up lacked political goodwill. What am I saying? I'm saying really that Kenya has had quite a number of attempts at bottom-up approach to development, to planning. Look, in 1963, can say our founding father, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, at that political independence, Kenya, encouraged and advised by the former colonial authority and the donor community, inherited a central planning approach where planning for development was one at the top and decisions passed down. In other words, it was done at the top and the decisions were passed down. Yes, you can read further in that document, sessional paper number 10 of 1965. Now, what did that mean? Top-down decision making. Yes, here's the national government. Here's the external group like World Bank, multinationals, donors, and all that. And here is the local people. So, top-down decision making. Look, the decisions were being made at the intersection between the national government and the external group outside the reach of local people. So there, decisions made here outside the reach and without the full participation of the local, rural, grassroots people. Development decisions, that is really starting from independence, 1963. Now, we can count one or two things or results of that. Kenya got into debt as it borrowed money from the World Bank and others. And those loans were coming with conditions. Kenya imported machinery rather than providing jobs for local people. Kenya relied on external links and technology. And even our universities, research institutes were replicating what is happening out there. So, as large-scale industry grew, it took away resources from the peripheral area, and particularly the rural area. That were some of the outcomes of the top-down. I'm not saying that there were no positives. Now, 1966, the government realized its inability to stimulate development in the rural areas, even when despite the expenditure of enormous resources. And therefore, and in a national conference in Kericho was called on how to manage rural development. One recommendation was there was need to give greater priority to rural areas in development planning. You can see an attempt now to come to the bottom, to move from top down, come to bottom down because of the negative results of dwelling on only top down, taking top down as a standalone approach. Yes, you can see further at that source. Opata, 1999. Come 1967, and a special rural development program, SRDP, was piloted in some districts to implement the 1966 Kericho Conference recommendation. But sooner than later, this SRDP was suspended, citing several problems. But analysis reveals a feeling at the top that the program was empowering people at the local level. You see now, this SRDP experiment demonstrated that the ruling political elite was not interested in implementing measures that were likely to empower the rural people. You can read further, that source Maleche, and so on and so forth. By the 1980s, most of the rural development problems remained unresolved. The standard of living of most Kenyans had deteriorated to the extent where it threatened political stability. Then a Philip Ndegwa committee was appointed in 1982 to review the situation. The committee borrowed from the 1966 Kericho Conference report and a new strategy of district focus for development was established, which was simply the application of the principles of decentralized planning at the district level. You see now a second attempt at bottom up. You can read further, Government of Kenya sources, 1983, district focus for rural development. Therefore, in 1983, the government embarked on the implementation of the district focus. That means now trying to go bottom up. The strategy asserted that district-based projects should be identified, planned, and implemented at the district level. But by 2004, the district focus for development strategy had been in operation for over two decades, but very little progress had been made in terms of spurring rural and national development. A critical examination of the rural and the national planning strategy revealed that there was no properly established mechanisms through which the local people could be or were mobilized to participate in development activities. Yes, you can read further again from researchers, students who have done research on the same. So one aspect or one approach or one philosophy of the district focus for rural development was the black box theorem. Yes, there it is. This black box theorem, simply stated, means if known inputs are supplied into the box, then some processes in the box will work on those inputs, and known outputs can be expected. Meaning, we can sit at the center, plan for the periphery, put resources in periphery, and expect results from the periphery or from, in this case, the rural scene. Yes, in 1989, I supervised at KU a master's student doing his master's research on the district focus for rural development in Bungoma and Trans Nzoia. And this is what the thinking was, if fertilizer and the seeds are supplied to districts, in this case Bungoma, Trans Nzoia, then farmers will utilize them and bumper harvests will be achieved. Again, much as we're talking of district focus, but all the planning, all the thinking is being done at the top. Indeed, our research showed that the results of the district focus, particularly for farmers in Bungoma and Trans Nzoia, did not materialize. But meanwhile, despite lack of mechanisms for community participation in government projects, rural Kenyans themselves brought development to themselves via the Harambee effort, which was or is essentially an informal cooperative work group structure. Harambee was and is characterized by local level identification of needs, local level mobilization of resources, and a local level implementation of projects and solving of local needs. Again, you can read further on Mbithi and Rasmussen on that source. Harambee. Harambee got recognized. The founding president of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, stated in his Republic Day speech of 1976 that these Harambee projects accounted for 40% of capital development in all the rural areas and voluntary cash contribution of 100 million shillings in 1976 alone. That's approximately $13 million at that time. The second president of the Republic, Daniel Arap Moi, stressed the importance of Harambee projects during his installation and added that development of our country does not depend on large projects alone. Indeed, in total, many small efforts may contribute more to development than a few large projects. You can read that at Aurora Hans on Harambee. You can see here the president's car stuck in mud and is out there urging collective effort, and even his own minister, Tom Mboya, can be seen there pulling through the Harambee effort, pulling the car out. So he was demonstrating from the top. Now, for bottom up to succeed, basic project institutions are necessary. Indeed, in 1985, President Moi, in referring to the Harambee movement, stated, Harambee is a basic Kenya institution. Harambee initiatives are the grassroots of the people, indicating what they want and what they are prepared to do to achieve it. Of course, there are other basic institutions that have helped develop rural folks, whether in Kenya or elsewhere, set up their own projects and include microfinance institutions, the cooperative movement, the non-governmental organizations, faith-based institutions, merry-go-rounds, and so on and so forth. We can call these basic projects institutions the BPI. You can see here, ladies are doing their merry-go-round, they are mobilizing financial resources, and they're going to spur development at the rural level. But alas, Harambee tumbled. As the Harambee movement grew, it was soon on a collision course with bureaucracy and established central planning machinery. Several fears crept into the minds of the government, including one, the very high degree of autonomy of self-help groups. Two, the potential for manipulation of these groups for private political ends by some leaders. Three, the waste of resources in poor project selection, that is the center thinking. And four, the oversubscription of this movement by the poorest, most needy, and marginal rural groups. It looks like the government was threatened. And therefore, steps were taken to put the movement under the established planning mechanisms and comprehensive regulations and control imposed, and in the process, killing the initiatives of the local communities. In 2004, instead of correcting the negative in the movement, in the Harambee movement, and enhancing the positive, and providing the Harambee movement an enabling environment for it to flourish, and using it to establish viable mechanisms of community participation, the government institutionalized the movement. In the process, muzzling local initiatives. The Harambee movement was politicized under the government of the National Rainbow Coalition NAC finally abolished it in the year 2004. You can read further at those sources, they'll give you an insight. So my conclusions for this short lecture are: 1, the recognition for bottom-up development approach, which I'm calling Buddha, has and exists in Kenya. 2, attempts to Buddha, bottom-up development approach to development in Kenya have been made. A Buddha political goodwill has lacked. Conducive Buddha environment elements have not been well recognized and well supported. Basic institutions to support Buddha have not been well recognized and well supported. And therefore, any new effort to reintroduce the bottom-up approach should avoid the key pitfalls of the past and be innovative. In other words, yes, we need bottom-up, but we don't have to repeat the mistakes that the forerunners made. And therefore, I want to propose what I'm calling Buissa's bottom-up, top-down development model. What am I saying? That bottom-up alone or top-down alone cannot stand or cannot bring development. We have already seen in the past when the top-down was focused on killing the bottom-up. Bottom-up could not also stand on its own. I'm saying, whichever way you look at it, there must be a top. Yes, we must have a government. We must have capitalists. We must have universities. We must have industry. So we cannot do away and we cannot wish away the top. The top, through participatory mechanisms, should initiate policies, incentives, technologies, for the bottom, for the Wafulas, the Mwenis, and MSEs. In other words, top working on its own will not bring prosperity. Bottom working on its own will not bring prosperity. This participatory approach, where the top comes down, identifies the needs of the bottom, goes back and makes the policies relevant, appropriate, incentive technology to the bottom. With those policies, the BPIs, basic projects institutions, should be empowered to support that bottom. These are NGOs, microfinance institutions, self-help groups, cooperatives, SACCOs, and when that happens, the bottom will start prospering, and it will now supply the inputs, the raw materials, the labor to the top. And when it does that, the top should also now be supported by the business development services, for example. R&D, finance, stock market, BDS, etc., etc. And when with all those incentives, and the payment will come down to the bottom. In other words, it must be top down, assess the situation down, pick what is necessary, go back, expertise The expertise at the top make now policies having participatorily picked the need from the bottom, and both the bottom and the board will be smiling all the way to the market. This I'm saying, therefore, top down, bottom up, these are two sides of the same coin. These are the two sides of the same coin. And I want to copyright this. You can use it, but please make reference to me. Now, if you enjoyed it, like it, share it, subscribe. And if you wish to support us, premium more, then donate for the course. Just visit that website and the donation directions will be given, or simply drop in something at buy goods till number 547-6465. That is, if you wish to support this course. Have a bottom up, top down, they want you. Thank you.